Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. You ever walk into a gun shop, look at those $5,000 and $6,000 custom rigs hanging on the wall and think, man, do I really need to take out a second mortgage just to shoot tiny little groups? I used to think that too, until I started putting regular working class rifles next to those safe queens on the bench and watching the cheap ones embarrass them all day long. Today we're tearing up that lie once and for all. We're counting down 7 rifles you can actually afford that shoot. So good you'll swear somebody swapped the price tags. These are real rifles I've shot, abused, hunted with, and watched punch ragged holes at distances that make the custom crowd real quiet, real fast. No fluff, no sponsor nonsense, just straight facts and a whole lot of lead downrange. So grab a drink, settle in, and let's prove that insane accuracy doesn't have to come with an insane price tag. Starting us off at number 10 is the rifle that made every other company panic dial their pricing sheets overnight, the Ruger Precision Rifle Gen 3. When Ruger said they were building a chassis rifle, most of us figured it would be another pretty good for the money offering. Instead, they dropped a straight-up sledgehammer. This thing shows up looking like it's ready to go to war. Big folding aluminum chassis that locks up rock-solid, full-length ARCA rail underneath. M-lock slots everywhere you'd ever want them. Adjustable cheek riser, adjustable length of pull, QD cups on both sides, and a cold hammer forged barrel that comes 20, 24, or 26 inches, already threaded and wearing a hybrid muzzle brake that actually works. It's chunky, yeah, right around 11 pounds with a heavy barrel. But that weight is your friend when you're sending 6.5 Creedmoor or .308 past 1,000 yards and still spotting your own splash with a 12-power scope. The bolt is a big 3-lug with a short 70-degree throw that cycles faster than most bolt guns half the price. The handguard is free-floated, of course, and it feeds from standard AI Sears mags that drop free like they're greased. The marksman trigger adjusts down stupid low, breaks like a glass rod, and feels exactly like the $300 aftermarket units guys bolt into customs. Out of the box, Ruger gives you a sub-moa guarantee. But the truth is, most Gen 3s I've shot or watched on the clock live happily in the high zero. 0.4s to low 0.6s with any decent 140 or 147 grain factory match load. We're talking one ragged hole all afternoon. Then you fold the stock, toss it in a backpack, and it's still shorter than most deer rifles. Street price right now floats between $950 and $1,100, and every Black Friday or Ruger rebate season. You'll see them under $900 at the big boxes. Is it light? Hell no, you're not packing this thing up a mountain for elk. Does the folding hinge have a tiny bit of play until you gorilla the latch? Sure, but for a factory rifle that will flat out win PRS production division matches, smoke steel at a mile on Sunday, and still not make you refinance your house, the Ruger Precision Rifle Gen 3 is the loudest screw you the custom world has ever heard. It's not just good for the money, it's good, period. And that's why it cracks the top 10 without apology. Sliding into number 5, let's talk about the Ruger American Rimfire, the rifle that showed up in 2013 and basically told every other budget .22 to step aside because the grown-ups had arrived. Ruger didn't just slap their name on a plinker, they built a full-on precision platform that still dominates the entry-level accuracy game more than a decade later. At the core is an 18-inch cold hammer forged barrel finished with a recessed target crown that protects the rifling and keeps every bullet flying true, no matter how many bricks you send downrange. The whole package weighs a balanced 6 pounds, light enough for a kid to shoulder all afternoon, yet hefty enough to soak up recoil and stay steady on target. The modular stock comes with interchangeable spacers, so you can dial the length of pull from 12 to nearly 14 inches. Meaning, the rifle literally grows with the shooter. Start your 8-year-old on squirrels, and by the time they're 16, it still fits like a glove. Pick your poison, .22, long rifle for cheap practice, .22, magnum for extra thump on varmints, or 17 HMR. If you want to reach out and touch prairie dogs past 200 yards, all feeding from Ruger's legendary rotary magazines that lock in solid and never jam, even when you're knee-deep in mud. The marksman trigger adjusts with a simple tool from 3 to 5 pounds, and breaks cleaner than most factory center fires, giving you that crisp snap without the creep that throws off follow-ups. The 60-degree bolt throw is short and silky, letting you run the action fast without losing cheek weld. And the tang safety sits right where your thumb wants it, positive on or off with zero fumbling. Under the hood, Ruger's power bedding system uses aluminum pillars and a V-block to cradle the action. So as the barrel heats up during long strings, the point of impact never walks. Groups stay tight from the first cold shot to the last. Out of the box with decent ammo, expect 3/4-inch clusters at 50 yards all day long and push to 100, and it'll keep everything under 2 inches, more than enough to smoke soda cans, ring steel, or drop tree rats cleanly. Street price hovers right around $400, sometimes dipping lower on sale, which is insane when you consider the features and the fact that Ruger's reputation for bulletproof reliability means this rifle will outlast your grandkids. It's become the default trainer for new shooters, the go-to for 4-H and junior program. At number 8, the rifle that straight up murdered the "you need a custom to shoot half MOA" excuse forever, is the Bergara B-14 HMR. This Spanish beast showed up in 2018 and immediately started embarrassing rifles that cost 3 and 4 times as much. It's built on a true Remington 700 footprint, so every trigger, stock, and chassis in the universe fits it. But Bergara does the important stuff in-house. A cold hammer forged barrel that's stupid consistent, free-floated inside a molded-in, full-length aluminum mini chassis that's hidden inside a soft-touch stock with adjustable cheek riser, length of pull spacers, QD cups, and M-lock slots everywhere. The thing looks like a regular hunting rifle until you pick it up and realize it weighs almost 10 pounds of pure stability, turning 6.5 Creedmoor into a laser beam and letting you watch your own bullet trace at 800 yards. The trigger adjusts down to just over 2 pounds and breaks so clean, you'll think somebody swapped it for a trigger tech when you weren't looking. It feeds from AI's mags that drop free, the bolt runs smooth, and the whole rifle wears perfect Cerakote, so it laughs at rust and scratches. Every single one ships with a written sub-moa guarantee on paper. But the truth is, most of them live in the 4s and 5s all day long, with cheap Horn 80 ELDM or prime ammo, and plenty of guys are shooting high 3s once they sort a load. Real-world price, usually $1,000 to $1,100. And every fall, the big boxes blow them out in the high 900s. Yeah, it's heavy, no sugarcoating that. If you're humping it up a mountain all day, you'll feel it. And the molded-in chassis isn't quite as sexy as a $1,200 MDT, but you can fix that later if you want. Out of the box though, this thing is ready for PRS production division on Saturday, elk at 600 yards on Sunday, and still leaves you enough cash for a killer scope and a case of ammo. It's the factory rifle that shoots like a full custom, costs less than most people spend on glass alone, and made every custom builder either drop their prices or step their game way up. Coming in at number 7 is the rifle that basically declared war on the idea that accuracy has to be expensive, the Savage Axis II. Savage has been the people's champion since before most of us were born, back when Winchester and Remington were flexing with hand-checkered walnut and deep polished blue. Savage was in the corner, quietly figuring out how to make a 20-inch sporter barrel that would stack bullets like cordwood on a $350 budget. The Axis II is the final form of that blue-collar obsession. Overall length runs about 42 to 43 inches, depending on caliber, weighs right around 6.5 pounds with that super light, kinda hollow-feeling synthetic stock, and ships with barrel lengths from 20 inches in the compact models up to 24 in the long-action magnums. What makes it stupid accurate is that ugly barrel nut sitting just ahead of the receiver. Yeah, the one that looks like it fell off a lawnmower. That nut lets Savage headspace every single barrel perfectly on a production line with a torque wrench instead of a gunsmith spending half a day with gauge pins and lapping compound. So every Axis leaves the factory with perfect chamber alignment, which is literally the biggest accuracy killer in cheap rifles. And they just solved it for the redneck way. Then they gave it the AccuTrigger, user adjustable from about 1.5 to 6 pounds. But most of us set it around 2.5, and it breaks like a glass rod with zero creep and zero over travel. Feels like a $300 Jewel or Trigger Tech in a rifle that costs less than a Vortex Crossfire. The bolt is a twin-lug push feed with a plunger ejector, throws about 90 degrees, feels a little notchy and gritty out of the box, and the stock flexes like a pool noodle if you torque it down on a bipod. But none of that matters, because these things flat out shoot. I've watched a bone stock Axis 2 XP in 6.5 Creedmoor with the cheap bundled 3-9 Bushnell on top, put 3 Horn 80 ELDMs into .43 inches at 100 yards straight out of the box, then go shoot at 2-inch groups at 500 the same afternoon, and still be doing it 3 seasons later without ever touching the scope turrets. You can get them in everything from .223 to .350 Legend to 400 Legend left-hand models too. Threaded muzzles on the new ones, and street price with scope usually lands between $380 and $450, sometimes under $350 on Black Friday. It's loud, it's ugly, it's light enough to carry all day, and rough enough to throw in the truck bed without crying, but it is a legitimate guaranteed sub-moa rifle that will outshoot rifles costing 5 times as much all day long and twice on Sunday. The Savage Axis 2 didn't just play the budget game, it burned the rulebook, salted the earth, and made world-class accuracy something any working man or woman can actually own. Sliding into the number 6 spot is the rifle that took one look at the Savage Axis, cracked its knuckles, the Ruger American. When Bill Ruger's company dropped this thing back in 2012, they didn't just step into the budget ring, they came in swinging haymakers. Overall length sits right around 42 to 44 inches. Depending on the model, weight hovers between 6.1 and 6.6 pounds. And you can get barrel lengths from 16.1 inches on the ranch models all the way up to 24 inches in the Magnums and the Predator line, most popular being the 22-inch Sport or Contour. The absolute star of the show is Ruger's power bedding system, 2 beefy steel V-blocks cast right into the synthetic stock that the action screws clamp into. So the receiver is locked in the exact same spot every single time, while the cold hammer forged barrel is completely free-floated from chamber to crown. No pressure points, no bedding epoxy needed, straight off the shelf. That alone turns a $450 rifle into something that shoots like it spent a weekend at the gunsmith. Then they gave it the Marksman adjustable trigger that you can dial from around 3 pounds up to 5 with just an Allen key from the outside, breaks super clean with almost no over travel, and a 3-lug bolt with a fat handle and a short 70-degree throw that cycles so fast you'll swear you're running a semi-auto. Toss in a Tang safety that's quiet and positive, a flush-fit rotary magazine on the standard models, or a detachable AI-style box on the newer Gen 2 and Predator versions, and barrels that are threaded 5/8 24 on most new production. Out on the range, these rifles are straight up boring, and I mean that as the highest compliment possible. Groups stay under an inch all day with factory ammo. Point of impact doesn't wander when the barrel gets screaming hot, and you can drag it through the mud, throw it in the scabbard, and it still comes back printing clover leaves. Yeah, the original stock still flexes a little. If you really crank down on a bipod, the finish is matte black everything. And the bolt can feel a hair loose when it's fully rearward, but for a real-world street price that usually lands between $450 and $550, sometimes dipping into the 400s on holiday sales, you're getting a rugged, lightweight, dead-nuts reliable rifle that will take you from your very first whitetail to ringing steel at 800 yards without ever asking for mercy. Ruger didn't copy the Axis, they studied it, improved it, made it tougher, faster, and honestly more refined in every way that matters. And that's exactly why the Ruger American owns the number 6 slot without breaking a sweat. Taking the number 5 spot is the rifle that walks into the room, looking like a classic 1960s hunting beauty, but shoots like it's got a PhD in ballistics, the Mossberg Patriot. Yeah, the same Mossberg that's been building indestructible 500 series shotguns since forever, has actually been cranking out bolt actions for almost a century. And with the Patriot, they finally said, screw it, let's make one that looks and shoots like a $1,500 rifle, but costs half of that. Overall length runs 42.5 to 44.5 inches, depending on caliber. Weight sits between 6.5 and 7.5 pounds. And you can get barrel lengths from 20 inches in the Youth Super Bantam all the way up to 24 or even 26 inches in the long-range models. most wearing a nice medium sporter contour that's fluted on a bunch of versions for weight savings and that custom touch. Many come with real walnut stocks that actually have checkering and a rosewood foreign cap, or gray or brown laminate if you want weatherproof. And almost every Patriot gets spiral fluted bolts and fluted barrels right out of the gate, stuff you normally pay extra for on other rifles. The action is a no-frills twin-lug push feed with a big Mauser-style claw extractor. Bolt lift is 90 degrees, and it's a little gritty compared to the glass rod stuff higher on the list. But it's bomb-proof and feeds from a polymer dropbox magazine that holds 4 or 5 rounds flush. The lightning bolt action trigger is user-adjustable from about 2.5 to 7 pounds and breaks super clean with zero creep. Barrels are button rifled in-house, and many are threaded 5/8 24 these days. Plus, Mossberg slaps a factory sub-moa guarantee on a bunch of models now. I've personally seen a plain Jane walnut Patriot in .308 with nothing more than factory iron sights shoot 5 rounds of 165 grain Hornady American whitetail into .62 inches at 100 yards. Just to remind everyone it can, and scoped versions routinely dip into the .4s and .5s with match ammo. Street price after rebates and sales regularly drops below $400, sometimes as low as $350 for the synthetic models and barely over $400 for the gorgeous walnut night train or Revere editions. It's not the slickest action you'll ever run. The magazine feels a little toy-like when you slap it home, and the recoil pad is harder than a tax auditor's heart. But when you shoulder one of those walnut beauties and watch it stack bullets like it's offended by anything bigger than ½ an inch, you'll forget every nitpick. The Mossberg Patriot is straight up cheating. Classic lines, modern performance, fluting everywhere, and a price tag that makes the old guard cry into their checkbooks. Coming in strong at number 4 is the rifle that's been quietly humiliating $1,000 customs for half a century. The Howa 1500, better known to most of us as the Weatherby Vanguard. This Japanese beast started life back in the late 60s when Howa took everything great about the old commercial Sako actions, beefed it up, modernized it, and started churning them out with obsessive Japanese quality control ever since. You're looking at a flat-bottom forged receiver, a massive one-piece bolt with dual oversized locking lugs that lock directly into the barrel, an M16-style claw extractor that never lets go, a plunger ejector, and a 3-position wing safety that lets you unload with the bolt locked down. The barrels are true cold hammer forged in-house on some of the best mandrels money can buy. Usually 24 inches on the sporter profiles, or 26 on the varmint models, with 5R rifling on a lot of the newer ones, and they're threaded 5/8 24 these days on most packages. Overall length runs about 44 inches on a standard 24-inch barrel model. Weight sits right around 7.8 to 8.5 pounds in the factory synthetic stock, depending on contour. So, yeah, it's a touch heavy, but that mass soaks up recoil like a sponge and gives you a rock-steady platform when you're ringing steel at 600. The factory Hogue pillar-bedded stock with the rubber overmold is actually pretty decent now, way better than the old Tupperware. But most hardcore guys yank it immediately and drop the barreled action into a chassis or glass bed, a Boyd's or an MDT, and suddenly it's a different animal. Out of the box, the trigger is a clean 2-stage that breaks around 3 pounds, and the bolt glide is stupid smooth, short 90-degree throw, almost Tikka levels once it's broken in. Real-world street price on a complete Vanguard S2 or Howa 1500 with a threaded sporter barrel in 6.5, Creedmoor .30, 8, or .2. 2.3 usually lands between $500 and $600 after sales, and every single one carries a factory sub-moa guarantee with premium ammo. That's the exact same hammer forged barreled action that custom shops buy naked for $500 or $600, then turn around and sell you as the heart of a $2,000 rifle. The only real knocks are the weight, the older factory stocks that look like melted lawn furniture, and the magazines on some models feel a little flimsy, but For the money you're getting forged steel, legendary durability, buttery cycling, and accuracy that routinely dips into the 3s and 4s with hand-loaded or with good factory stuff like Hornady, ELDM, or Prime 130 grain. If you want the single toughest, most proven action and barrel combo on the planet without stepping into 4-figure territory, the Howa 1500 is the answer, period. Taking the bronze medal at number 3 is the rifle that straight up broke the industry's pricing scam and made every custom builder sweat, the Tikka T3x Lite. Up in Finland, they don't play games. Tikka and Sako share the same factory floor, the same barrel-making wizards, the same cold hammer forging machines that pound out some of the most consistent rifling on the planet. And the T3X is proof they just turned the bling knob down to 0 and let the performance do the talking. You're looking at a 24.3-inch sporter barrel on most calibers, 22.4 in the super light versions, 1 in 8 twist on the 6.5 Creedmoors, 1 in 10 on .308, fluted bolt body, oversized bolt knob. Standard now, and that legendary 60-degree bolt throw that's so slick, you'll catch yourself just working the action, sitting on the couch like it's therapy. Overall length comes in around 44 inches. Weight hovers right at 6.4 to 6.6 pounds in the synthetic stock, depending on caliber, making it stupid light to carry all day, but still rock steady off a backpack or bipod. The stock itself is a reinforced polymer with smart modular inserts, interchangeable grip panels, better bedding than most factory rifles twice the price, and it's actually stiff enough that you rarely need to glass bed it unless you're chasing PRS scores. The single-stage trigger adjusts from 2 to 4 pounds, breaks like a glass rod, 0 creep, and the 2-position safety is silent and positive. Every T3X ships with a legit sub-moa guarantee using quality ammo, but most of them I've shot or seen on the rack will happily live in the 0.5 to 0.7 range with Hornady ELDM, Prime 143s, or any decent handload. Detachable polymer magazine holds 3 or 5 rounds depending on caliber, feeds perfectly, though yeah, replacements are stupid expensive at $40+ a pop. Street price on a blued or stainless T, 3X Lite usually lands between $780 and $880 right now, sometimes dipping under $750 during the big fall and holiday sales. And for that money, you're getting 95 to 98% of what a full house Sako, 85, or high-end custom offers, minus the fancy walnut and the ego tax. The only real complaints you'll ever hear are the magazine cost and the fact that the recoil pad is a little firm, but slap a limb saver on it and you're golden. Once you run a couple hundred rounds through a T3X Lite, shoulder that featherweight balance, feel that bolt snap shut like it's spring-loaded, and watch it stack bullets in one ragged hole, every excuse for spending $2,000 or $3,000 vanishes into thin air. This is the rifle that walks into a precision match with a bargain bin price tag, smokes the field, then goes elk hunting the next morning, and still has money left over for a killer optic. Absolute robbery in the best way possible. Our silver medal, the undisputed number 2 slot, goes to the little rimfire that shoots so ridiculously good it makes grown men with $3,000 center fires question their life choices. The CZ 457. I know what some of you are thinking, a .22 on a list full of big boy calibers? Trust me, once you see what this thing does, you'll be selling plasma to buy one. CZ has owned the premium rimfire game since the old 452 days, but the 457 is the refined masterpiece. Fully modular, user-swappable barrels in about 30 seconds with just an Allen key, 60-degree bolt throw that's buttery smooth, a match chamber cut so tight it'll embarrass most factory centerfire rifles. Cold hammer forged and lapped barrels that come in 24.75-inch varmint contours, 20-inch threaded sporters, or even 16-inch suppressor-ready versions, all wearing either gorgeous European walnut with laser-cut checkering or laminated stocks that look like they cost more than the rifle itself. Overall length runs 38 to 42 inches, depending on model. Weight sits between 6 and 7 pounds in the heavy barrel versions, perfect balance, and the American model even ships with an 11mm dovetail and no sights, so you can slap whatever glass you want straight on. The trigger is the same excellent adjustable unit you'll find on their centerfires, pulls down to about a pound with zero creep and a crisp break that feels like snapping an icicle. Magazines are polymer 5 or 10 rounders, feed flawlessly, and the push-to-fire safety is exactly where your thumb wants it. Out on the range, these things are stupid accurate. A good 457 Varmint Precision Chassis, or MTR, will literally shoot one whole 5-shot groups at 50 yards with SK Rifle Match or Lapua Center X all day long. And I've personally rung 300-yard gongs with boring regularity using nothing more than Ely 10X and a 12-power scope. Street price on a walnut, 457 American or Lux, floats right around $520 to $580 on a normal day. Varmint models around $600, and the steel precision chassis versions still land under $900. That's bench rest level performance, and Schutz level fit and finish. And the cheapest ammo on earth, so you can actually afford to practice until your fundamentals are flawless. Downsides? Almost none. The 5-round mags on some models feel tiny if you're plinking, and the bolt can be a little stiff brand new, but 50 rounds later, it's glass and never looks back. If you want to become a legitimately scary good shooter, learn wind like a pro, and do it without filing for bankruptcy every range trip, the CZ457 is the single greatest cheat code in the gun world, and that's why it takes silver without apology. Let's talk about the Tikka T1x MTR, a rifle that feels like it snuck out of a Sacco factory and decided to live its best rimfire life. Launched back in 2018, this Finnish beauty was engineered from the ground up to be the most accurate production line .22 you can walk into a store and buy without selling a kidney. The heart of it is a 20-inch cold hammer forged barrel cut with 5R rifling that just loves to spin match-grade bullets into tiny, predictable spirals. That barrel floats inside a fiberglass reinforced stock that's been beefed up with a full-length aluminum bedding block. So no matter how many strings you fire, the harmonics stay locked in and the zero never drifts. The entire rifle tips the scales at a featherweight 5.9 pounds. Light enough to carry all day, yet stable enough to shoot off a backpack like a bench rest rig. What really sets it apart is the action. It's a dead ringer for the Tikka T3x centerfire footprint, which means every stock, every chassis, every trigger guard designed for your deer rifle bolts straight onto the T1X with zero gunsmithing. Drop it into an MDT Oryx or a KRG Bravo, and you've got a clone of your big game gun that costs pennies to feed. The single-stage trigger breaks like glass right around 2 pounds out of the box, and the bolt glides on buttery bearings with a short 60-degree throw that's faster and smoother than a lot of centerfires I've run. Feed it from crisp 10-round polymer magazines that click in with authority and drop free when you're ready to reload. On the range, this thing is stupid accurate. Half-inch groups at 50 yards become routine with decent ammo. And even stretching out to 100 yards, it'll keep everything inside an inch if you do your part and pick something like SK Rifle Match or Lapua Center X. It's the ultimate crossover trainer. Same grip angle, same cheek weld, same balance as the rifle you take elk hunting. Only now, you're burning through a brick of 22s for what one centerfire cartridge costs. Street price usually lands right around $600, sometimes a hair less if you catch a sale, which is wild when you consider the build quality and the fact that Tikka's reputation for out-of-the-box precision is basically bulletproof. It's carved out a sweet spot in the market as the go-to for hunters who want a rimfire that mirrors their centerfire setup. And it's become a favorite in NRL 22 base class divisions, where rules keep things close to factory. On the downside, the factory stock isn't adjustable for length of pull or cheek height without swapping parts. The barrel ships unthreaded, so you'll need a smith if you want to run a can. And the magazine release takes a little practice to master one-handed. Some folks complain the polymer furniture feels a tad hollow when you shoulder it, and the bolt handle could be a smidge longer for gloved hands in cold weather. Still, those are nitpicks on a rifle that delivers custom-level consistency for production money. If you're looking to train for PRS, hunt small game, or just punch ridiculously small groups without breaking the bank, the T1x MTR sits in a class of its own, bridging plinking and precision better than anything else on the shelf. There it is, 7 rifles that laugh in the face of 5-figure price tags and still shoot like they belong on a PRS podium. The takeaway is simple. Great barrels, great triggers, and solid design beat pretty wood and brand names every single day of the week. You don't need to be rich to shoot like the pros, you just need to be smart about where your money goes. Now I'm dying to hear your stories. Drop a comment and tell me which budget rifle shocked you the most, or which sleeper I missed, because I know there's more out there. If this helped you save a pile of cash, or just made you smile, smash that like button, share it with your broke buddies who still wants to shoot tiny groups, and make sure you're subscribed because we've got way more of this coming. Until next time, stay safe, keep them in the black, and I'll catch you on the range. Gunforge out.